The moment Harper Sullivan stepped through the revolving doors of the Plaza Hotel, the entire ballroom seemed to gasp at once, as if Manhattan itself had paused to watch what would happen next. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, violins whispered through the speakers, and guests in couture gowns turned their perfectly contoured faces toward the entrance. But they weren't staring at Harper. They were staring at the three small children clinging to her hands. Three perfect, wide-eyed triplets who shared the same unmistakable Whitford blue eyes as the groom. No one had known Harper would come, and no one, absolutely no one, expected her to bring proof. For a split second, Harper considered turning back. She could almost feel the weight of every judgmental glance slicing through her. The whispers, the stares, the barely concealed shock. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. A mother of three with a simple navy dress from a clearance rack didn't belong in a room dripping with Dior, Cartier, and old money arrogance. But she straightened her shoulders. She had survived worse than stares. Much worse. Across the ballroom, Miranda Whitford, the woman who once destroyed Harper's life with a single calculated lie, froze mid-conversation. Her manicured hand tightened around her champagne flute, knuckles whitening. She had invited Harper to this wedding expecting to humiliate her. A pity invitation, decorated with venom disguised as politeness. A final reminder that Harper had lost everything. But Miranda had not expected the children. Her expression cracked. And then Grant Whitford, the groom, the man Harper once loved, turned toward the entrance. The world seemed to tilt. His face drained of color as he locked eyes with the triplets. The glass slipped from his hand and shattered across the marble floor, but he didn't react. He didn't blink. He just stared, stunned, stricken, as if every piece of his carefully curated future had just been ripped out of place. Harper swallowed hard. She could feel her heartbeat trembling in her throat. She hadn't come to destroy anything. She had come because some truths refused to stay buried, no matter how deeply Miranda Whitford tried to bury them. A hush rolled through the crowd, thick enough to choke on. "That can't be her." "Can it?" someone whispered. "Those kids, they look just like... Oh my God, does the groom know?" Harper didn't speak. She didn't need to. The truth was already detonating. And for the first time in her life, Miranda Whitford looked genuinely afraid. Because the ex-daughter-in-law she thought she'd erased had returned with the one thing she could never silence. And the wedding was about to implode. The night before the wedding, Harper Sullivan sat on the worn gray sofa inside her tiny Brooklyn Heights apartment, watching her three children chase each other around the living room. Mason was holding a wooden toy airplane, missing a wing. Miles was trying to fit two socks that didn't match onto his feet, and little Mila was singing something completely off-key, but heartbreakingly sweet. The apartment was cramped, the wallpaper was peeling in one corner, and the refrigerator hummed louder than any appliance had a right to. But it was home. It was theirs. Harper folded another pile of tiny clothes and placed them into three small backpacks. She moved slowly, carefully, as if each folded shirt carried a memory she wasn't ready to face. She glanced toward the window, where the Manhattan skyline glowed like another world, one she once belonged to, one she had been exiled from without a chance to defend herself. A soft knock pulled her from her thoughts. Rowan Pierce stepped inside with his usual quiet authority, dressed in a simple charcoal coat that made him look even taller in her small apartment. He glanced at the kids, then back at Harper, reading the exhaustion written in the tightness of her shoulders. "You don't have to go tomorrow," Rowan said gently. "No one expects you to walk into that lion's den." Harper exhaled shakily. "Miranda expects me to hide. That's exactly why I'm going." Rowan studied her for a moment. "You know she invited you to humiliate you." "I know," Harper whispered. "She thinks I'm still scared of her." Mason ran over and tugged at Rowan's sleeve. "Uncle Rowan, look, my airplane can still fly." Rowan smiled softly at him. "Of course it can. You're a Sullivan." Harper's chest tightened. She had raised them alone, but not alone. Rowan had stepped in quietly without judgment, without asking for anything in return. He had been her stability in storms she never talked about. But tonight he looked at her differently, like he was afraid of losing her to a past she didn't know anything to. "Harper," he said quietly, Whatever happens tomorrow, you don't face them without support. She nodded, though her hands trembled. Because tomorrow she would walk into the plaza with 3 children who carried a truth powerful enough to tear a dynasty apart. And she knew Miranda Whitford would never forgive her for it. 3 years earlier, the sun had barely risen when Harper Sullivan walked into the Whitford penthouse for what she thought would be a normal morning. She was 9 weeks pregnant, exhausted but quietly excited, still rehearsing how she would tell Grant the news. He had been stressed with work, but she knew he loved her. She believed that once he heard about the baby, everything would change. They would fix things. They would heal. She had no idea the ambush waiting for her. Miranda Whitford was seated at the massive marble kitchen island, dressed in a pristine white suit as if preparing for a photo shoot. Her cold smile sliced through Harper's optimism the moment she entered. 2 lawyers stood nearby. Harper's stomach tightened. "Sit," Miranda ordered. Harper hesitated. "Where's Grant?" Miranda's smile widened. "Busy, and after today, he'll be happier without you complicating his life." One of the lawyers slid a folder toward Harper. Inside were glossy photographs, staged, skillfully edited, impossibly convincing, showing a man who looked like Harper entering her apartment late at night. A man she had never seen before. Harper's breath hitched. This isn't real. You know this isn't real." Miranda leaned back, crossing one leg over the other. "Reality is whatever people believe, and trust me, Harper, they will believe this." Tears blurred Harper's vision. "Why are you doing this? What did I ever—" "You don't belong in our world," Miranda snapped. "Grant needs a wife who elevates him, not one who drags him down." Harper reached for her phone. "I'm calling Grant." Miranda nodded to the lawyer. "Take it." They snatched the phone from Harper's trembling hand. Then Miranda delivered the blow that shattered everything. "Sign the separation agreement, walk away quietly, and I won't tell Grant about the pregnancy." Harper's heart stopped. "How do you think I don't monitor the women around my son?" Miranda hissed. "End this, or I'll make sure Grant believes you trapped him, and you will lose that baby in ways you can't imagine." The threat hung in the air like poison. Harper, terrified, powerless, alone, signed. Miranda exhaled in satisfaction. "Good girl. Now disappear." And Harper did. She packed a single suitcase, took the subway to Brooklyn, and vanished from Grant Whitford's world, carrying 3 lives he would never know existed, at least not until the day of his wedding. Rowan Pierce arrived at Harper's apartment that afternoon, carrying 2 cups of Starbucks coffee and an expression that already knew she hadn't slept. Harper was kneeling on the floor trying to zip Mason's small jacket while Mila clung to her leg, pouting because her braid had come undone again. The chaos of motherhood filled the air, but Rowan took it in with the quiet fondness of someone who had been around long enough to know this scene by heart. "You're really going," he said gently, handing her a warm cup. Harper nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. "She thinks she can scare me forever." "I'm done being erased, Rowan." He sat across from her at the small dining table. Scratched wood, one chair slightly uneven, a stark contrast to the world she had once lived in. He placed a thin folder onto the table and pushed it toward her. "I've been working on something," Rowan said. "Just read it on the way." Harper frowned. "What is it?" "Proof. Real proof. Things Miranda covered up, emails she deleted, the signature she forged on your separation agreement." His voice softened. "You're not the helpless girl she thinks you still are." A wave of shock rippled through her. "Rowan, how long have you been digging into this?" "Since 3 years ago," he said simply. "Since the morning you showed up at my office shaking and pregnant, asking me how to disappear." Harper swallowed hard. She remembered that morning all too vividly, how broken she had been, how terrified, how Rowan never once made her feel ashamed. "Why now?" she whispered. "Because Miranda Whitford wants a war," he answered. "And you deserve to walk into that hotel tomorrow with armor." Miles wobbled over toward Rowan with his arms lifted. Rowan scooped him up effortlessly, making the little boy laugh. Somehow Rowan belonged here. Among the toys scattered on the floor, the mismatched socks, The imperfect life Harper had rebuilt from ashes. But as Rowan held Miles, his voice lowered. Harper, going tomorrow. It's dangerous. Miranda isn't just cruel. She's powerful. She won't hesitate to twist this against you. Harper straightened, resolve burning in her chest. Let her try. I'm not hiding anymore. Not from her, not from Grant, not from anyone. Rowan studied her, really studied her, his blue eyes deep with both admiration and fear. If anything goes wrong, he murmured, I'll be right there. Nothing's going wrong, Harper said softly. Not this time. Because this time she wasn't walking into the plaza alone. The Plaza Hotel rose before Harper Sullivan like a golden monument to everything she had once been deemed unworthy of. Its gilded revolving doors shimmered under the morning sun, reflecting a world she no longer belonged to. At least that was what Miranda Whitford had intended. Harper tightened her grip on the small hands beside her. Mason, Miles, and Mila clung to her legs, staring up at the massive chandelier, visible even from outside. Mommy, is this a castle? Mila whispered. Harper managed a small smile. Something like that. She could feel dozens of eyes on them already. The valets in crisp uniforms, the guests in tailored suits, the socialites stepping out of black Mercedes sedans. Her dress wasn't designer. Her shoes weren't cotier. And she had 3 toddlers in tow. She must have looked like the wrong puzzle piece forced into an expensive painting. But she kept walking. Inside the grand lobby, marble floors gleamed beneath her feet, and towering floral arrangements perfumed the air with lilies and roses. The wedding signs pointed toward the ballroom, but Harper's stomach twisted at the thought of stepping through those doors. She wasn't just walking into Grant's wedding. She was walking into her own execution. From Miranda's perspective, anyway. A woman in a silver gown paused mid-conversation, staring openly. Then another turned. Then another. Is that her? Someone murmured. The ex? Why would she come? And the kids, oh my God, they look. Harper didn't stop to listen. She wanted this to be over before her courage broke. As she stepped closer to the ballroom entrance, a familiar voice cut through the murmurs. Well, Miranda Whitford said smoothly, if it isn't our unexpected guest. Harper turned. Miranda stood with perfect posture, wearing a navy gown that looked custom-made for a queen who enjoyed watching others kneel. Her eyes traveled from Harper's face to the 3 children at her sides. A flicker, quick, sharp, unmistakably panicked, crossed her expression before she masked it. You brought company, Miranda said tightly. Harper held her gaze. They're my children. I don't hide them. Miranda stepped closer, lowering her voice so only Harper could hear. Turn around now, Harper. I invited you for courtesy, not spectacle. You invited me to humiliate me, Harper replied, but you underestimated one thing. Miranda's jaw tightened. And what is that? Harper looked down at the 3 sets of blue eyes staring up at them. The truth always walks in eventually. Miranda's smile twitched, cracked, just as the ballroom doors opened wide, and Grant Whitford saw everything. Grant Whitford had been standing beside the towering wedding arch, shaking hands with board members and smiling for photographs he didn't care about, when a strange silence swept across the ballroom. It moved like a ripple, soft at first, then tightening, sharpening, until every conversation died mid-sentence. Grant turned instinctively, confused by the sudden shift in the air. Then he saw her, Harper, and the world he'd built, every carefully arranged piece, collapsed in an instant. His breath caught in his throat. He blinked once, twice, but the image didn't change. Harper Sullivan, the woman he had spent 3 years trying to forget in order to stay sane, was standing at the entrance of his wedding, holding the hands of 3 toddlers who looked so shockingly like him that it felt like someone had punched the air out of his lungs. The triplets stared up at him with the same ocean-colored eyes he saw in the mirror every morning. The ballroom erupted in whispers. Are those? They look exactly like... Oh my God, does Grant know? Beside him, Evelyn Hart stiffened, her smile freezing into something brittle. She placed a hand on his arm as if to steady him, or to remind him he was hers now. But Grant barely noticed she was there. He stepped forward, his voice barely forming. Harper? Harper didn't look away. Not this time. Not like the day she disappeared without explanation, leaving him drowning in betrayal and unanswered questions. Miranda moved quickly, her heels clicking sharply as she positioned herself between Grant and the truth walking toward him. "Grant, darling," she said, voice coldly commanding. "This isn't the time. She shouldn't be here." But Grant pushed past her. He reached Harper, stopping just a breath away. The children recoiled slightly, unsure of the stranger, staring at them as if they were ghosts. Grant's voice trembled. "Harper, those kids, they're—" Before he could finish, Miranda swooped in like a hawk. "They are not yours," she snapped. "Harper found ways to entertain herself after leaving you." Gasps rippled through nearby guests. Harper's jaw tightened. "Miranda, enough." But Miranda wasn't finished. She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only they could hear. "If you say one word, one truth, I'll destroy you again. Do you understand?" Grant heard it. For the first time in his life, he heard the venom in his mother's voice. He turned toward her, slowly. "What did you just say?" Miranda paled. But the damage was done, and the truth was already unraveling. Grant Whitford stood frozen, his pulse pounding in his ears. He had heard his mother angry before, furious even, but never like this. Never with fear cracking through her voice. Harper didn't flinch, but her eyes shimmered with a pain he recognized too well. A pain he once swore to protect her from. "Mom," Grant said slowly, "what did you just threaten her with?" Miranda straightened her posture, the picture of privilege refusing to bend. "Grant, sweetheart, she's manipulating you. Look at her. She timed this stunt perfectly. Bringing children to your wedding? It's pathetic." "They're not a stunt," Harper whispered. Miranda threw her a glare sharp enough to cut glass. "Quiet." But Harper didn't look away this time. She took a shaky breath, one hand resting on Mila's shoulder, as if grounding herself. "If you won't tell him, I will." Miranda's voice rose, panicked. "Grant, she's lying." But Harper reached into her small purse with trembling fingers. She pulled out a thin envelope. Old, worn, familiar. She held it out. Grant took it, confused. "What is this?" "The last thing I ever wrote to you," Harper said softly, "before your mother made sure you never saw it." A gasp escaped him. "What are you talking about?" "Open it," Harper whispered. His hands shook as he slid the letter from the envelope. He recognized Harper's handwriting instantly. His chest tightened as he read the first line. "Grant, I'm pregnant." His vision blurred. He gripped the paper harder. Behind him, Evelyn hissed under her breath. "Pregnant? What?" Grant kept reading. "I'm scared, but I wanted you to be the first to know. I love you, and I need you." His breath shattered. "Mom, you told me she left because she didn't want a family." Miranda's mask slipped. "I did what was necessary. She was going to ruin your future." "My future?" Grant's voice cracked. "They're my children." "Not legally?" "Not legally?" he barked. "Mom, they have my face." Several guests flinched. Harper swallowed hard, voice quivering but steady. "You were never supposed to find out." Miranda made sure of that. Grant turned to her, devastation hollowing his voice. "Why didn't you fight? Why didn't you come to me?" "I tried," Harper said. "But when someone has power and money and a legal army, there's only so much a pregnant woman can do." Miranda lunged forward. "Enough of this." But Grant stepped in front of Harper, shielding her automatically. "Mom," he said coldly, "you destroyed the woman I loved, and you stole my children from me." For the first time in her life, Miranda Whitford had no answer. Evelyn Hart had always imagined her wedding day as a flawless photograph. Her in a diamond white gown. Grant at her side, the Whitford name becoming hers. Everything about her life had been designed for that moment. The dress fittings in Beverly Hills, the curated guest list, the press-ready smile she'd practiced since childhood. She was raised to become a wife in a dynasty, not to lose to the ex-girlfriend who used to take the subway to work. So when Grant whispered, "They're my children," everything inside her split. Her manicured nails dug into her palms as she stepped closer, her voice low and sharp. "Grant, don't do this. This is exactly what she wants. She's trying to tear us apart." Grant didn't even look at her. Evelyn, not now. Not now. Two words that hit her like a slap. Evelyn straightened her spine, forcing her expression back into something polished. Grant, this is your wedding. You can't let some scene derail everything your family built. Harper felt the tremor in Mila's small hand and pulled her closer. Grant finally turned to Evelyn, his eyes dark. My family. My mother lied to me for 3 years. If anything's being derailed, it's because of her, not Harper. The crowd murmured. Cameras from guests' iPhones flickered. Someone whispered Evelyn's name. Another whispered scandal, and Evelyn felt heat crawl up her neck. She could feel the judgment rolling toward her, like she had somehow lost control of the narrative. Miranda stepped in, desperate. Evelyn, dear, don't let this upset you. Grant will come to his senses. Harper has always been dramatic. Harper lifted her chin. You destroyed my life. Don't you dare call me dramatic. Miranda ignored her, locking eyes with Evelyn. We proceed. We don't cave to theatrics. But Evelyn wasn't listening anymore. Her gaze was fixed on the children, on the undeniable truth painted on their little faces. Her perfect future was slipping, cracking, shattering like the champagne glass Grant had dropped earlier. She turned to Grant again, her voice trembling now. You said she left you. You said she didn't want a family. Grant closed his eyes briefly. That's what I believed. And now, Evelyn whispered. Grant looked at Harper, at the kids, at the 3 years stolen from him. Now I know the truth. Evelyn's breath stuttered. For the first time in her privileged life, she felt something she couldn't hide behind money, beauty, or status. Fear, because Harper Sullivan hadn't shown up to take Grant back. She'd shown up with the truth powerful enough to ruin them all. If Miranda Whitford felt the ground slipping beneath her feet, she didn't show it. Not yet. Years of social dominance had trained her to stay composed, even while flames rose around her. But the panic flickering behind her eyes betrayed her as she stepped forward, voice rising sharper than the crystal chandeliers above them. That's enough, she snapped, loud enough for the entire ballroom to hear. Conversations halted, every head turned toward her. This circus ends now. Harper felt Mason grip her hand tighter. Mila hid behind her leg. Miles pressed his cheek to her thigh. The children sensed the hostility radiating from the woman towering over them. Miranda pointed a trembling finger at Harper. You think bringing children here makes you noble? This is manipulation, a disgraceful attempt to ruin Grant's wedding. You always were desperate, Harper. Grant recoiled. Mom, stop! No! Miranda barked. Everyone here needs to know what she is. Her voice grew sharper, almost unhinged. A liar, a social climber, a woman who traps men with sob stories and fabricated problems. Harper's throat tightened. You don't get to rewrite what you did. Miranda laughed, a dry, poisonous sound. You want to talk about what I did? Fine. You walked away. You left Grant heartbroken, and now you show up with 3 children who conveniently look like him, expecting sympathy? Gasps rippled across the room. Harper swallowed hard but didn't break. I didn't leave. You forced me out. Prove it, Miranda shot back instantly. Go on. Tell this room full of witnesses why a woman who supposedly loved my son vanished without a trace. Tell them why you never contacted him once. Tell them why you waited until today, of all days, to appear. Her voice dripped venom. Because that's who you are, Harper. Emotional, impulsive, and selfish. Harper opened her mouth, but the words stuck. Not because she didn't have the truth. She did. She had the letter, the threats, the legal documents Rowan uncovered. But she suddenly felt the weight of every eye on her, every whisper, every assumption stacked against her. Then Miranda made her fatal move. She stepped closer to Harper and hissed, These children will never be Whitford's. I'll bury you again before I let that happen. Grant froze. Evelyn's mouth fell open. Several guests gasped. And that was the moment, right then, when the entire room finally understood something deeply, irrevocably wrong had happened 3 years ago. The perfect Whitford facade had cracked, and Miranda herself had shattered it. For a long, suspended moment, no one dared breathe. The tension in the ballroom felt sharp enough to slice through the silk gowns and designer suits. Miranda Whitford stood trembling with fury, and Harper Sullivan stood trembling with exhaustion. But it was the small, timid voice of a child that finally shattered the silence. "Daddy?" Miles, the quietest of the three, stepped forward on unsteady legs. His soft brown curls bounced as he tugged free from Harper's grip. His little hand reached toward Grant without hesitation, without fear, without any understanding of the chaos around him. "Daddy," he repeated louder this time. Grant staggered as if the word physically struck him. His throat worked silently, his knees nearly buckled, and then he slowly crouched down, meeting Miles at eye level. The little boy blinked, studying Grant's face with innocent curiosity. Then he pointed at Grant's eyes. "Like mine." A hush rippled through the audience. Someone near the back whispered, "There's no denying that." Another said, "He looks exactly like him." Miles moved closer, placing his tiny hand on Grant's cheek. "Daddy sad?" Grant's breath caught. His voice broke. "I didn't know you existed." Harper felt something pierce her chest. Pain, relief, fear. It was all tangled. Miranda lunged forward. "Get that child away from him!" she shouted, grabbing for Miles's arm. But Grant snapped into motion, rising sharply and blocking her. "Don't touch him!" Miranda froze mid-step. Grant's voice shook with rage. "Not him! Not ever!" Miles blinked at the sudden movement, lower lip trembling. Grant immediately softened, kneeling again. "Hey, buddy," he said, his voice gentle now. "It's okay. You're okay." Mason and Mela moved closer too, all three children forming a small triangle around Grant. The guests watched as if witnessing something sacred, something too real for their polished world. Mela tugged Grant's sleeve. "We draw you," she whispered. Grant frowned. You draw me?" Mason nodded enthusiastically. "Mommy say Daddy has blue eyes, like sky." Harper closed her eyes, tears slipping free. She had never told them to call him that. She had only answered their questions the way a mother answers gently, honestly but carefully. Grant looked up at her, eyes burning with grief and something deeper. "They've been calling me Daddy their whole lives, haven't they?" Harper swallowed the lump in her throat. "They knew you from the parts of you I could never hide." And in that moment, before the entire ballroom, Grant Whitford realized the one truth Miranda couldn't erase. He had always been a father. He just never knew he'd already been loved. Grant Whitford felt the ground tilt beneath him as he rose to his feet, his palms trembling violently. The noise of the ballroom dulled into a distant hum. The string quartet had stopped playing. Even the chandeliers seemed to dim. He looked at Harper, really looked, and for the first time in 3 years, he saw the truth written plainly across her face. Not bitterness, not manipulation, just exhaustion, sacrifice, and a quiet strength that made his chest ache. "Harper," he whispered, voice unsteady, "why didn't you come to me again? Why didn't you fight harder?" The question slipped out before he could stop it. Raw, broken, aching. Harper blinked, stunned. Pain flickered across her face. "I did fight, but your mother made sure I never got within 10 feet of you. She took my phone. She forged my signature. She told me you didn't want the baby." Grant flinched as if struck. "I never said that," he breathed. "I know," Harper said softly. "But I was pregnant, alone, sick, and I was scared. She knew exactly how to make me disappear." Grant's vision blurred. Anger, grief, guilt. They crashed through him in waves so strong he had to grip the edge of a nearby table to steady himself. Behind him, Evelyn shifted uncomfortably, whispering under her breath, "This is getting out of hand." Grant ignored her completely. He turned to the children, his children, and his knees gave out. He sank to the floor in front of them, shoulders shaking. Mason hesitantly reached out and touched his hair, unsure why the tall man with the familiar eyes was suddenly crying. "I'm so sorry," Grant whispered, voice cracking. "I should have found you. I should have known. I should have—" His breath hitched. He couldn't finish the sentence. Harper felt her own throat tighten. Seeing Grant break apart wasn't satisfying. It was heartbreaking. This wasn't the cold man she thought had abandoned her. This was the man she loved once, shattered by a truth he never chose. Miranda took a step forward, panicked. "Grant, stop this! People are watching!" He spun on her with a fury she'd never seen. "I don't care," he snapped. "You stole my family from me!" Gasps echoed through the room. Miranda froze. Evelyn stumbled back. Guests exchanged stunned looks, and Grant turned back to Harper, voice trembling with a confession that ruptured the entire wedding. "I never stopped loving you." The room fell silent, but the damage and the truth had already detonated. Harper Sullivan didn't answer right away. Grant's confession, "I never stopped loving you," hung in the air like a dropped chandelier that hadn't shattered yet. Suspended in a dangerous, breathtaking moment, the entire ballroom held its breath, waiting for her reaction. Harper didn't look at Grant first. She looked at her children. Mason clutched her skirt. Mila's eyes were wide with confusion. Miles had silently pressed his cheek against Harper's thigh, sensing the tension around him. They were her world now, and they needed stability, not chaos. She finally lifted her gaze to Grant, voice steady but soft. "Love isn't enough." Grant flinched, his lips parted, but no words came out. "You didn't choose to leave me," Harper continued, "but you didn't choose to look for me either. You believed the worst of me. You let your mother tell you what to think. You let me disappear." Grant opened his mouth again. "Harper, I swear—" She held up a hand. "Please, stop. I'm not here to fight about the past. I'm here because you deserve to know your children, nothing more." A murmur ran through the room. Some people nodded with sympathy. Others whispered that Harper was being cold. But Rowan Pierce, standing by the doorway, watching everything unfold, saw the truth. Harper wasn't cold. She was protecting herself and her children. Harper took a breath. "We're leaving." Grant stood so fast he stumbled. "Wait, Harper, please." He reached for her, desperate, but she stepped back. The kids followed her instinctively, like three small shadows. "You can see them," Harper said quietly, "but not today. Not like this." Grant's voice cracked. "Don't go. Not again." Harper felt the old wound tear open, but she didn't let it bleed this time. She gathered her children and began walking toward the exit. The crowd parted around her, stunned by her strength. "Harper!" Grant called again, louder, voice breaking. "Don't walk away from me." She didn't turn. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding. Harper ushered the triplets inside, Rowan stepping forward just as the doors began to close. Grant ran. "Harper, please, let me talk to you. Let me fix this." For a heartbeat their eyes met, his filled with agony, hers with resolve. And then the elevator doors shut between them with a quiet, final thud. Grant stood alone in the ballroom, chest heaving, breath shaking, as the reality hit him. For the second time in his life, he had lost her. But this time, it wasn't Miranda's doing. It was his. Evelyn Hart had never been embarrassed in public a single day in her life, until now. As the elevator doors closed on Harper and the children, every whisper in the ballroom seemed to turn sharp, slicing into her composure. Guests weren't looking at her with admiration anymore. They were watching her with curiosity and pity. Pity was poison. She clenched her jaw, nails digging into her palm as she stepped away from the chaos Grant had left behind. She couldn't lose everything. Not her marriage, not the alliance, not the status she'd spent her entire youth chasing. And certainly not to Harper Sullivan, a woman Evelyn believed was beneath her in every measurable way. Miranda staggered toward her, breath uneven, makeup cracking. "Evelyn, dear, don't let this ruin—" "Oh, it's ruined," Evelyn cut sharply, her voice icy. "Your son just chased his ex and their secret children out of his own wedding. Do you have any idea what this looks like?" Miranda swallowed, struggling to regain control. "We can fix this. We spin the story. We expose Harper. She's unstable, manipulative. Not good enough," Evelyn hissed. Because Evelyn wasn't like Miranda. She had grown up around Hollywood sharks. She knew how to bury an enemy, and she knew exactly what would kill Harper's credibility in a single blow. She pulled out her phone and opened her insurance folder, unedited clips she'd secretly recorded weeks ago when she first suspected Harper might resurface. Clips of Harper looking overwhelmed wrangling 3 toddlers in a grocery store. clips taken from terrible angles that made her look disheveled, distracted, exhausted. Evelyn stitched them together with a few choice captions. Unstable mother. Neglectful. Using children for leverage. It took less than 2 minutes, and with a single tap, Evelyn anonymously sent the video to a high-profile gossip page with millions of followers. Within seconds, her phone buzzed. Posted. Miranda's breath caught. Evelyn, what did you do? What someone should have done 3 years ago, Evelyn replied, smoothing her gown. If Harper wants to play in our world, she better learn what it costs. But just as Evelyn turned to walk away, she collided with someone. Rowan Pierce. His expression was calm. Too calm. Interesting timing, he said quietly, holding up his own buzzing phone. Posting a smear campaign while children are involved? Even for you, Evelyn, that's low. Her face blanched. Rowan stepped closer, voice dropping to a razor-sharp whisper. And now you've made a mistake I can actually destroy you with. For the first time that night, Evelyn Hart felt real fear. Rowan Pierce had always been the quiet observer, the man standing just outside the spotlight, reading every detail the way other people read headlines. But as he stood face to face with Evelyn Hart, something sharper flickered behind his eyes. He wasn't just observing now, he was preparing to strike. Evelyn stiffened, forcing her voice steady. I don't know what you think you saw, Rowan, but I saw everything, Rowan said, his tone steady as steel. Your little edit job, your captions, your fingerprints all over a smear that's going to hurt 3 kids who have done nothing to you. That's ridiculous, she snapped. You can't prove. Already did. Rowan lifted his phone. Screen recording, metadata, timestamp, IP address. He leaned in. Do you want me to continue? Evelyn's breath faltered. Miranda tried to intervene, grasping at her fading authority. This is unnecessary drama. Rowan, be reasonable. Reasonable? Rowan turned to her with a cold, almost polite smile. Miranda, you forged signatures. You intercepted medical records. You illegally seized Harper's private correspondence. Should we go down the list alphabetically or chronologically? The color drained from Miranda's face. Rowan took a step back, giving both women a chance to breathe. I didn't come here to make a scene, but you two did, and now the consequences are coming. Evelyn swallowed hard. What? What do you want? Simple, Rowan replied. You're going to retract the post, publicly. You're going to state clearly that Harper Sullivan is not unfit, not unstable, not manipulative. He paused. Because this time, the world will believe you. And if I don't, Evelyn whispered. Then, Rowan said calmly, I send all this evidence to the press, the board of Whitford Holdings, the Hart Family Trust, and every major news outlet in Manhattan. His eyes narrowed. You won't just lose Grant, you'll lose everything. Silence swallowed the room around them. Evelyn wasn't used to threats she couldn't outrun. She looked at Miranda, expecting support, but Miranda was frozen, realizing the empire she'd built with lies was about to collapse. Rowan moved past them, his voice soft but lethal. I don't fight dirty unless someone draws first blood. Tonight? You did. He took one last look at Evelyn. Fix it, before I do. Then he walked away, calm as a surgeon leaving an operation room, knowing he'd just cut open the truth. While chaos still simmered inside the plaza's ballroom, another fire had already started burning across Manhattan. News of the interrupted Whitford Hart wedding had spread faster than champagne rumors, and by the time Miranda Whitford stormed into the Whitford Holdings headquarters on Park Avenue, an emergency board meeting had already been called. This time she wasn't leading it. She entered the boardroom expecting loyalty, expecting fear, expecting obedience. What she found instead were 12 stone-faced board members staring at her with the icy calculation of people who had finally realized the queen they served was rotten to the core. Good evening, Chairman Dalton said, adjusting his glasses. We've been waiting for you. Miranda straightened her blazer, masking her unease. This is absurd. We should be focusing on damage control, not wasting time with theatrics. Dalton tapped a folder. Is that what you call this? The greatest PR disaster in Whitford Holdings history? Another board member slid a stack of documents across the table. We've received leaked information, emails, recordings, legal discrepancies, all pointing to your direct interference in your son's personal life and the falsification of legal documents. Miranda's face tightened. That evidence is fabricated. It's verified, Dalton countered coldly. Digital forensics confirmed the forged signature, the suppressed medical reports, your emails to a private investigator. And this, he lifted a paper. Your directive to remove Harper Sullivan from Grant's life. Miranda's breath hitched, just barely, but the board saw it. Let me remind you, another member said, that Whitford Holdings does not tolerate executives committing federal crimes. Miranda slammed her hands on the table. I built this company with my husband. I protected it. And now you jeopardize it, Dalton said. Your actions have placed us at legal, ethical, and financial risk. Silence fell. Then he delivered the blow Miranda never saw coming. As of this moment, the board is voting to remove you from your position as vice chair. Miranda froze. You can't do that. We just did. 11 hands lifted, 11 votes, unanimous. Dalton closed the folder with finality. Security will escort you out. If you resist, we will proceed with legal charges. For the first time in decades, Miranda Whitford felt powerless. She stood there trembling, mascara cracking, watching the empire she built turn its back on her. Her reign had ended. And Harper Sullivan hadn't even lifted a finger. The morning after the ruined wedding, Manhattan woke to headlines that screamed chaos. Whitford heir abandons bride, mid-ceremony secret children? Drama at the Plaza, evil or exonerated. The Harper Sullivan mystery. Outside Whitford Holdings, reporters gathered like a storm with microphones raised like spears. Grant Whitford stepped out of a black SUV, no longer the polished groom, but a man who hadn't slept and whose world had been shattered by truths he never knew existed. Cameras flashed, questions flew. Grant, are the children yours? Did Harper manipulate you? Did your mother hide the pregnancy? Is the wedding still on? He didn't answer. Not yet. Inside, Rowan waited in a quiet conference room, leaning over a stack of papers. When Grant entered, Rowan looked up with a mixture of pity and resolve. You ready? Rowan asked. Grant nodded. I have to do this. For Harper, for the kids, and for myself. Rowan handed him a folder. This is the full report. Every forged document, every intercepted letter, every order your mother signed to keep Harper away. Grant skimmed it, eyes burning. How could she? How did I not see any of this? Because you trusted her, Rowan replied. Too much. Grant shut the folder with trembling fingers. Not anymore. When he stepped up to the podium, the press exploded with questions. Grant raised a hand, and the courtyard fell silent. His voice when he spoke wasn't that of a polished COO. It was the voice of a father who had just discovered 3 stolen years. Yesterday, my life was turned upside down, he began. And today, I'm here to set things right. Reporters leaned forward. I have 3 children, 3 beautiful children I never knew existed. Not because their mother hid them, she tried to tell me, but because someone else made sure I never heard the truth. Flashbulbs burst like lightning. My mother, Grant continued, voice cracking, created lies that destroyed the woman I loved. She stole my family from me, and I will spend every day moving forward trying to rebuild what she broke. Gasps rose across the courtyard. Grant steadied himself. Harper Sullivan is not unstable. She is not manipulative. She is the strongest woman I know, and she raised our children alone because I wasn't there to protect them. A reporter shouted, Are you two reconciling? Grant hesitated, then shook his head softly. That's up to her, he said. All I can do now is be the father I should have been from the start. It wasn't a performance. It wasn't a strategy. It was truth, and Manhattan felt it. While Grant stood before reporters owning the truth, across the city, Evelyn Hart sat in her family's Beverly Hills-funded penthouse suite, staring at her phone as notifications detonated one after another. Her smear post about Harper had backfired spectacularly. The gossip page had deleted the video. right after posting a statement. Evidence suggests this clip was maliciously edited. Source traced to Evelyn Hart. The comment section turned vicious within minutes. She tried to frame a single mom? Imagine being this insecure. Harper is raising triplets alone, and this is the woman calling her unstable? Evelyn scrolled faster, her hands shaking. Her stomach twisted at the sight of her public image crumbling in real time. Then her phone rang. Her father. Evelyn, get home, now! Her blood ran cold. Dad, please! This is not what it looks like. It looks, Theodore Hart growled, like you dragged the Hart name into the biggest scandal in New York. The Whitfords have already contacted us. They're dissolving the alliance. Evelyn's breath hitched. No, Dad, I can fix it. Just give me time. You won't fix anything, he snapped. As of today, you are removed from all family trust decisions. Your access cards are deactivated. Security will escort you off any hard-owned property if necessary. Her legs buckled and she dropped onto the edge of the bed. You can't do that. I'm your daughter. You're an embarrassment, he replied coldly. And until the press storm clears, you're on your own. The line went dead. Evelyn stared blankly at the floor. For 27 years, she'd been the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect manners, perfect image. Now, one scandal, one miscalculated attack, and she was disposable. She stood pacing the room. No, no, they can't do this to me. Her reflection in the mirror looked unfamiliar. Mascara smudged, lipstick fading, the polished facade cracking. Desperation crawled up her spine. She grabbed her phone and dialed Grant, straight to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail, and again. Finally, she whispered into the empty room, Grant, I need you. Please pick up. But Grant Whitford was done with her, and Manhattan had seen enough. By sunset, every news outlet was reporting the same headline. Evelyn Hart, fall of a false bride. Her downfall had been swift and irreversible. Harper Sullivan didn't watch the news. She didn't check social media. She didn't read the headlines shouting her name or the chaos unfolding around the Whitfords and Harts. Instead, she spent the morning sitting on the floor of her Brooklyn apartment, surrounded by crayons, half-finished drawings, and the soft chatter of her children playing. It was the first peaceful moment she had felt in years. Mila crawled into her lap. Mommy, look, I draw a castle. Harper smiled, brushing a curl from her daughter's face. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Rowan stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame with a gentle expression. He held 2 paper cups of coffee, the cheap kind from the corner deli, the kind Harper liked more than anything fancy. He offered 1 cup toward her. Rough night? He asked. Harper took the cup, exhaling. The longest of my life. Do you regret going? Rowan asked. She shook her head. No. For the first time, the truth is out. Not twisted, not hidden. Rowan's gaze softened. And for the first time, you're not carrying it alone. Harper looked away, swallowing the sudden lump in her throat. For years, she had been surviving. Barely, quietly, invisibly. Now the world knew the truth. And it was terrifying. And freeing. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the table. A new message. From an unknown number. She hesitated before opening it. Harper, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect another chance with you. But please, please, let me be their father. Let me earn the right. Grant. Her chest tightened. The words weren't dramatic. They weren't manipulative. They were raw, honest, and terrifying. Rowan watched her carefully. You don't have to answer right now. I know, she whispered, but I also know the kids deserve the truth. All of it. Rowan nodded. And you deserve peace. Peace. A word she hadn't felt in 3 long years. Another buzz. This time an email notification. Harper frowned and opened it. A booking confirmation. From a luxury client. 5 figures. Her breath caught. She had been hired to coordinate a major Manhattan gala. Her biggest opportunity ever. The message included a note. Your strength yesterday inspired me. We want your vision. We want your voice. Harper covered her mouth with her hand, emotion swelling unexpectedly. Rowan smiled. See? The world is finally recognizing who you are. Harper blinked back tears. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving. She was rising. The knock on the door came just after sunset. Soft but steady, the kind that didn't belong to a stranger. Harper froze mid-step while picking up toys scattered across the living room. The triplets looked up from their coloring books, curious. Mason tilted his head. "Mommy, someone here?" Harper wiped her palms on her jeans and walked to the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. Rowan had left an hour earlier. The hallway outside was usually silent at this time. When she opened the door, her breath caught. Grant Whitford stood there. No tailored suit, no polished hair, no carefully curated expression. Just Grant, a man who looked like he'd aged years in a single night. His eyes were red-rimmed, tired, and full of emotions she didn't want to name. "Harper," he said quietly, I hope this isn't a bad time." For a moment she couldn't speak. Part of her wanted to close the door. Another part wanted to collapse, but she stepped aside just enough. "What do you want, Grant?" He swallowed. "To see them, only if it's okay." The triplets peeked over the back of the couch, whispering among themselves. Mila was the first to run up, clutching her stuffed bunny. She stared at Grant, wide-eyed. "You came back," she said softly. Grant knelt instantly. "I did. I promise I won't disappear again." Mason and Miles approached cautiously. Grant opened his arms, not assuming, just offering. Mason stepped in first, resting his cheek against Grant's shoulder. Miles followed. Mila tucked herself into the hug last. Harper looked away, her throat tightening. Grant held them like something sacred, something he didn't deserve but would spend the rest of his life trying to earn. Then he stood, clearing his throat. "Harper, I didn't come to talk about us. I'm not here to make promises or ask for a second chance. I came because I want to start being their father, however you'll allow it." Harper crossed her arms, steadying herself. "I don't know what that looks like yet." "I'll follow your lead," Grant said. "Whatever you say goes. I just want to be here, even if it's from a distance." It was the first time he had ever given her control. The room felt too small, too quiet, too full of 3 years' worth of grief and possibility. Harper exhaled. "We'll start slow." Grant nodded, relief softening his features. "Thank you." The children tugged on his hands, showing him their drawings. He sat cross-legged on the rug, listening like each crayon scribble was a masterpiece. Harper watched silently. Maybe forgiveness wasn't here yet. But healing had finally stepped through her door. 3 months later, Harper Sullivan stood beneath the soft afternoon sunlight of Central Park, watching her triplets chase bubbles across the grass. Spring was warming Manhattan, painting the skyline gold. For the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe without the weight of the past crushing her ribs. Her life was different now, full, steady, and hers. Her event planning business had exploded overnight after the gala she orchestrated became the city's most talked about charity event. Clients emailed nonstop. Her name was finally associated with success, not scandal. And most importantly, her children laughed more, slept more peacefully, smiled more freely. Grant arrived right on time, walking toward them with a gentle wave. No entourage, no arrogance, just a father learning how to show up. He carried a picnic basket that Mila immediately tried to dig through. "You made sandwiches?" Harper teased as he set the basket down. Grant rubbed the back of his neck. "I tried. Miles said my peanut butter skills are okay." Miles grinned with peanut butter already on his cheek. "It's good, Daddy." Grant's eyes softened. Every time they called him that, he looked like he was still learning how to hold the word carefully. Harper watched them play. Grant didn't push. He didn't pry. He didn't try to reclaim a life he once lost. He earned his place slowly, gently, day by day. It was enough. Rowan arrived a moment later, carrying juice boxes and giving Harper a warm smile. "Thought they might get thirsty." Harper smiled back. Rowan had been her anchor long before the truth came out. And he remained steady even now, unthreatened by Grant's presence. They were both here for the same reason, the kids. Grant looked between them, something respectful settling in his expression. "Harper," he said softly, "I meant what I said the last time. Whatever choice you make in your life, I'll support it, as long as I get to be their father. It wasn't pressure, it wasn't a plea, it was acceptance. Harper inhaled deeply. The wind brushed her hair, carrying children's laughter across the field. Her heart felt light, lighter than it had in years. She didn't choose out of guilt. She didn't choose out of fear. She chose out of peace, and peace pointed clearly. She stepped closer to Grant, her voice warm. "You're doing a good job, with them, and with yourself." Grant blinked, breath catching. "Does that mean—" "It means," Harper said, smiling softly, "our story isn't over. Not yet." Across Manhattan, Miranda Whitford faced ongoing legal investigations. Evelyn Hart vanished from the society pages, a cautionary tale whispered at fundraisers. Justice had arrived quietly but decisively, and in Central Park, Harper Sullivan finally got everything she fought for. Truth, freedom, a family rebuilt, not perfectly but honestly, and a future she chose on her own terms. And just like that, our story comes to an end. If you're still here with me right now, my friend, then something in this journey touched your heart in a way you maybe didn't expect. Maybe it reminded you of your own strength. Maybe it whispered to you that healing is possible, even after years of feeling invisible. Or maybe, just maybe, it reminded you that the truth always finds its way to the light. You know, the Stoics used to say, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Harper's pain didn't break her. It shaped her. It pushed her toward the life she deserved, and that's something each of us can hold on to. No matter who tried to silence you, no matter who doubted you or tried to dim your light, you're still here. You're still standing. That means something. So take a deep breath with me. Let this story be a small reminder that you are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to start again. And you are allowed to become someone even stronger than you were before. If this journey moved you in any way, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who might need a little strength today, and subscribe so you never miss a story that speaks straight to the heart. Stay kind, stay strong, and stay with us. Just a quick note for YouTube and for everyone watching. This entire story is a work of fiction created purely for entertainment and emotional reflection. None of the characters, events, companies, or situations are real or based on actual individuals. The names, locations, and dialogues are crafted to deliver a dramatic narrative and meaningful life lessons, not to represent real people or real events. Any resemblance to real persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. This channel focuses on storytelling, using imagination, empathy, and cinematic writing to explore themes like healing, courage, truth, and resilience. Everything you see and hear in this video is scripted for creative purposes only. Thank you for supporting our stories, for engaging with the message, and for helping us build a safe creative community here on YouTube.